Welcome back to How to Become a Freelancer in 30 Days. This is Anthony Chatfield, and today, day 19, we're going to talk about emailing contacts in your industry, basically how to use email to promote your new business and network with other professionals. So the goals for today are going to be to identify your target audience and start building a list of prospects. So who can you contact, who needs what you offer, and how are we going to reach them? You're going to determine the method you'll use for reaching out, whether it's email or LinkedIn or whatever else you want to use, and then we're going to create an email marketing campaign with the resources you've gathered. Basically, our goal is to reach out to people directly rather than waiting for them to come to us, just to kickstart things and start connecting with people that you would find ideal clients. So to do that, we need to identify your targets. The first question to ask is, who do you want to target? By now, hopefully, we're almost 3 weeks in. I'm hoping that you have a good idea of who your ideal client would be. Who do you want to work with? Whether it's a veterinarian or a doctor's office or a plumber or a local contractor or a restaurant. Who is the type of business owner or individual you want to work with, and where do they spend their time? This is how you're going to start creating your list. Now, you can do this manually. And the easiest way to do it is to use a tool like LinkedIn or Facebook just to look people up based on those criteria. Or you can pay someone to do it. In the past, I've been able to pay people to manually put these lists together based on the criteria I provide. Pretty inexpensively, but inexpensive is relative depending on your budget. So you're still looking at $50 to $100 to build a solid list of a couple hundred people. So it's up to you. It takes maybe 2 to 3 hours to do this. So even if you just gather a handful of people within an hour, that can get you started. I would only aim for batches of about 100 people at a time, though. That'll save you a lot of time. And make sure you create a new separate email address while doing this so that you don't have any issues with your current email address. We're not spamming people. You're going to email them directly. You're going to provide direct information. You maybe won't even email them. You're just going to use this information to kind of build a profile and learn how to target better. But if you do email people, you don't want your current email address getting overflowed or shut off even if people complain. Another tool you might consider is getting Boomerang for Gmail, if that's what you're using, or just using Outlook. Both of them let you schedule stuff and check for follow-ups without having to do it all manually. So it'll speed things up quite a bit. If you haven't yet, we talked about this just a little bit. Focus on a vertical or geographical area. It's great to work with everybody when you first get started. So if somebody comes to you with a project and you want to do it, please do it. But don't necessarily target everybody. Choose a specific area so that you can build expertise in that area and start adjusting. It helps you learn the language a little bit. You can go on LinkedIn groups and look up, for example, plumbers and see how they talk about their business and what they need. It also helps you kind of adjust your marketing campaign and your tactics and the language you use on your website based on what that persona talks about. It also helps you kind of adjust things like email headlines and copy, because if it doesn't work once, you know that all these people you're contacting kind of have roughly the same background. It'll help speed things along. Okay. Make sure you personalize your message though. Like, don't use a form letter. That's borderline spam. Even if you're sending these individually, you're going to get a low response rate no matter what you do. So the key here is to make sure that you customize as much as you can, talk about their business, use their name, their business name, their competitors' names, and you can use a template to get started, but make sure you tweak it as much as you can. And that's why I only do batches of 100, so I can focus a little bit. Be prepared for rejection. I think out of every 100 emails I used to send, and this was like very early on. Once you get your website up and all that content churning, that's going to do a lot of the work for you. And if you have money for an advertising campaign, you can almost skip this lecture completely and just focus on paying for the traffic so people come find you. But in the meantime, if you don't have any money and you don't have any content up yet, this is the most efficient way to get started reaching out to people. Just don't expect a lot of them to write back. And some of them might not be very nice. Again, this is not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's akin to cold calling. And, in my example, I'm writing emails, but you can cold call as well if that's easier for you to do. It's a little faster, but you get just as high a rejection rate. So something to keep in mind. Not the most comfortable thing in the world to do, but a great way to jumpstart things once you get going and to learn a lot about that target audience. So where are you going to find those prospects? LinkedIn is great because everything's broken down by demographic. I'd recommend paying for the LinkedIn Premium for 1 month. I think you can get one as low as $30, depending on what level you pick, just so you can get that extra search data and you can find people more efficiently. The key, though, is to find the right person within a company. If it's a small enough company, like if you want to target small local businesses, you can just go directly to the owner every time. But if you're targeting medium-sized businesses who have 20, 30, 40, 50 employees, you want to find the decision maker for that production level work. So, like for example, in an agency, it might be a content manager of some sort. In a slightly larger production company, if they produce a product or service, it might be a director level. Account or project managers tend not to be decision makers, but they can refer you to the people who are. And then again, small business owners always have decision-making capabilities, but don't necessarily expect them to understand that they need your services. Ideally, you want to find somebody who already knows what they need. If you're going to use LinkedIn, you can use direct outreach through your existing networking groups. So how LinkedIn works is that your network is as big as everybody that you're connected to. So anybody you have a direct connection with is a first level connection, and all of those people's connections are second level. You can contact any of those. You can also contact anybody who's in a group with you. So the more groups you join, the larger your audience. But there obviously are millions of people on LinkedIn. So if you want to access people who are not in that network, you have to pay to do it. You can do that through InMail or sponsored InMail. These cost money. That's part of the LinkedIn Premium campaign. But it ensures they open it. If they don't open that email, you don't have to pay for it. So it is pretty targeted, and you do get a lot of responses out of it. But whether you get work out of it will depend on how keen your targeting is and how direct you are with the emails you send. And then creating your letter. Avoid copying and pasting form letters, but also don't write from scratch every time. So it's kind of a catch-22, but you'll want a template, something to start with, something basic. I'd aim for 150, 200 words tops. Keep it short, add an image or a call to action. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit marketing. If you're going to add an image, though, make sure you at least have an image of your picture as well, in the signature. It's fine because people, it's the second they start reading, they know it's a marketing message anyways. Just don't make it too cheesy or over the top. Link to a form on your website or a piece of content you've created. If you are creating content, have an offer of some sort, this is a great way to build trust. It's just be like, hey, I have this awesome thing, you want to take a look at it, rather than, hey, do you want to hire me? Because the latter, even if they would be interested, it just comes off as a little too direct sometimes. You'll get a lower response rate. So unless they're ready to hire at that exact minute, it's going to be a little tough. And then schedule time for your messages that you can reply to immediately. This is where Boomerang or Outlook come in handy. Even if you're prepping all these at 11 o'clock at night, you would want to schedule them to go out at a time that's convenient for you. So, for example, if you're available to answer emails at lunchtime every day, then you'd want the emails to go out maybe 10 or 11 a.m. so that by the time you start getting responses, if you do get them, you can respond immediately. Okay, so for today's actions, identify who your target audience is, research and build out a list of prospects, or at least get started if you're going to do it manually. Create a template for your form letter that you can work with for your audience, and then generate a list of leads for who you're going to send to. Finally, start thinking about when you want to send that message. It's a lot of work. This is a lot of stuff to do. And again, if you're already getting work, or if you have built out content, or if you're paying for advertising, you may be able to skip this step or at least tweak it, depending on where you're currently at. I would not necessarily recommend, however, just spamming a lot of people really fast. It's time-consuming and expensive, but also not particularly effective. This level of targeting is a little more effective, and it'll help you kind of reach those people more directly and so hopefully start building your client profile faster. All right, so that's everything for today. Make sure you leave any comments or questions below, and if you haven't yet, please leave a review of the program. I love your feedback, and I will be back tomorrow.